Parents of Reddit, what is most fucked up secret you are hiding from your children? Not mine, but my sister's oldest doesn't know that her younger sister, whom she loved with all her heart, was kidnapped, raped and then shot in the head. She believes that the younger one died in a car accident. That's pretty effed up according to me. That is fucked. I've been telling my sister that she needs to come clean, since her daughter is old enough to understand why they must have hid it, but she won't budge, saying that she might cut off ties with her, and it may affect her studies. As her aunt, I can only stand and support her when the truth comes though. That we are divorced. Years before they came along, spouse and I decided it wasn't working out, and got divorced. Years later, things still weren't working out fantastically for both of us, so we got back together. Never did get around to getting remarried though. What are you gonna do when they fill out forms for FAFSA, or other legal documents they need help with? This is a legitimate question. Lol. Edit. I know this won't affect the aid they receive, since the parents live together, and the kid is dependent from both, but FAFSA asks whether or not your parents are legally divorced regardless, so my point is that the kid would find out through this process. I am the child, but my dad waited till I am grown up to tell me that my mom gave me a lot of sleeping pills when I was a little child, so she could leave me alone at home to maintain her relationship with her lover, while my dad was working in another country. That cleared up many things. People are brutal. Wow, sorry man. Actually, same thing happened to my kid's dad. My ex would do this when I worked graveyards so they wouldn't hear her bringing home guys. I'm not the parent, I'm the child, but my family kept it a secret that my brother was a child molester, and that my grandpa had raped my mother and threatened to kill us grandkids. I found out because I told my sister that my brother had molested me, and she told me about the rest. We were raised having a relationship with them like they were normal human beings. It's absolutely disgusting. My uncle molested all three of his sisters and everyone acts like it's no big deal. It's just not talked about at all. I don't speak to him because my father told me when I was very young to never be in a room alone with him, but also because he's an insufferable C who thinks he's better than everyone. Not really fucked up but still a big secret. I've been living 1/2 hours away from my wife and daughter for the past 11 months. Every time I talk to my daughter she asks when am I coming home. Well, little does she know that next Friday when her and her mom come for what she thinks is just a weekend visit, they are actually coming to pick me up for good. Thanks everyone for all the kind words. To clarify a few things. My move was medically related. I got shot when I was 13 and this is in no way related to that. I am a social worker by trade, but have not worked in the field these past 11 months due to my situation. I actually did an AMA about it a few years ago. My wife and I did get divorced, and yes, we did co-parent. However, recently we have decided that the truth is we should have worked harder on being together, and are giving it another go. I call her my wife because I never really stopped thinking of her that way. I mentioned being shot because people were checking my post history and seeing that I had been shot, but not that it was when I was 13. People were wondering if that is why I had been away. My parents told me my sister is adopted. They didn't tell her. She's 34. BTW help, what do I do? Buy the whole family DNA test kits for Christmas and watch the world burn. Savage. But actually intrigued on how that will go. I never actually took his nose, it stayed on his face the whole time. In fact, it has never once left his face, even though I have told him that I took it countless times. I even showed him the tip of my thumb as evidence of the theft. Sorry you had to read that, but it feels really good to come clean. Edit. Thanks for all the responses. AU summed art. I will tell him the truth eventually, but have to make sure mom is on board, too. For those of you condemning me, your words weigh heavy. But honesty, much like a fire at the circus, is intense. New throwaway for this one. That my adopted daughter was conceived as a result of a gang rape. Experts say you are supposed to give your adopted children all of their history when they are old enough, but honestly if it were me I would just rather not know. We are considering not ever telling her. It weighs heavy on our hearts. Edit. She's 15, almost 16. Edit 2. She knows she is adopted, and is even in contact with her birth mother. But her birth mother does not think she should know this history either. The compelling argument to tell her is this. It is not our right to decide if she knows her history. It's her history, and her right to know both good and bad. Edit 3. Several people have asked about my username. I was changing my newly adopted daughter's 6 weeks old diaper, and not yet used to the unpleasantness of doing so, gagging, and just trying to get through it. I'd been through this several times before, and though it was just my body making a threat, but would not follow through. Just as I'm trying to finish the cleanup, a nice little liquid squirt was unleashed right onto my arm, and it pushed me over the edge. Not wanting to vomit on my kid, I turned my head to the side and puked towards the floor. Of course, one hand was holding two little legs, the other hand holding the wipes, so I could not try catching it. Guess who was standing down there milling about? Mr. Meow, that's who. This happened soon after we adopted the daughter this thread is about, and I just thought of that when I was trying to think of a username. As a person who was adopted and had no idea the story behind my biological parents, this is one of my biggest fears. I would not want to know that. That being said, everyone is different. I'm adopted, and I've pretty much actively avoided pursuing any knowledge about my biological parents beyond any medical or hereditary conditions. I've heard too many horror stories, so I'm good. I'm adopted, and I've pretty much actively avoided pursuing any knowledge about my biological parents beyond any medical or hereditary conditions. I've heard too many horror stories, so I'm good. Kind of the opposite, but on my 18th birthday my father walked into my room with a bag of weed, a damp, a bunch of rolling papers, and showed me the entire hidden portion of our house, not on blueprints, accessed through hidden door, that he used to grow weed. I had gotten grounded for smoking weed several times by that point in my life. This was in Florida in the 90s. I'm more intrigued by the house portion of the story. How have you never noticed that something on the outside of the house never matched up to the inside? Was the secret entrance something dramatic like a bookshelf on hinges? Very large house that my father designed himself. The hidden door was disguised as a closet inside of one of the garages. The door was always locked though, so for a while I just assumed the water heater and amp, mechanical stuff was in there. My 3-year-old is an absolute miracle. Her birth mom, my wife's sister, didn't want her, basically tried for an intentional miscarriage via massive drinking and drug use. Born 10 weeks premature, she shouldn't even be alive by most medical estimations, yet here she is. Slight developmental setbacks, but she is solidly inside the bell curve. Her socialization is on point, and she should start school on time. She will know none of this until she is in her teens, most likely. I am so grateful for this impossible little person. I secretly adopted, bought, my son after my wife lost our own child during birth. It's quite easy in my country considering there's a lot of poor parents willing to give away their children. My wife regained consciousness after 4 days. Neither her nor my son know this. I'm the child, but my grandma was so mad at my mom dating young and getting pregnant that she lost her first 2 pregnancies because my grandma made her brothers beat my mom until she had miscarriages. It hurts my heart. Fuck your grandma and your uncles. I don't have kids, but here's a family secret. My mom and I left the straightener on for 2 days while we took a family trip to Canada. It doesn't have an automatic off. We haven't told my dad. Did it work? Or is your house still gay? It's flaming. That we weren't actually visiting daddy at his work. It's a secure psychiatric ward where he's been since she was 3 months old. I'm curious how your relationship started with the father. Sounds like an interesting story. We met a few years before. He always had issues, but so did I, and we were madly in love. Things were going well for a while for both of us until I got pregnant. His mental health got worse and worse until he got sectioned and ended up where he is now.